Welcome back on board Medallia. It's 2 days after I've got in and I've returned to the scene of the crime to do a little bit of a stop check, just to see the condition of the boat so that we can get it into a suitable state for me to sail home. So I thought what I'd do is just maybe take you through. We can have a look at some of my war wounds and just kind of remember, you know, how it all was. So first thing I've noticed actually, just here, look. That is the top off a red flare, and I guess that, you know, immediately that makes me think of that moment coming down the canal, holding those flares up. Just that was a moment I've dreamed of my whole life. It was amazing. So starting off on the bow, there's a bit missing. You might notice my pulpit. That literally came off in the last 6 hours into the finish line. So the day before, when I was coming up the Spanish coast, my halyard lock broke for the Jenica, which was flying out on the end of the bowsprit. And when that came down, it crushed this frame on the other side of the boat. And I sort of secured it back in place, but coming into the finish, the weather was so terrible. A big wave came and just ripped the whole thing off. It was traumatic. The last 6 hours of the race was so stressful. Looking forward to getting that back on again. It's definitely one thing I've appreciated is all the little details that went into the preparation of the boat, and you know, Joffa's got so much knowledge about this race and what's important. And one of the things that I didn't even consider was we put non-slip on the bowsprit. I have spent a huge amount of time on this bowsprit with a boat behind me, waves coming over me, you know, charging through the waves, and I'm just sort of sitting out here trying to really tack lines or pull my spinnaker sheets out of the water and put them round. I never considered, you know, how important it was to have this non-slip on here, but it certainly made a difference. We've got all the sails out on deck drying at the moment, and have done a bit of a review to see whether there's any damage to them or how they look. And do you know what, in general, they have been incredible. I have so little damage to my sails, and I was really happy with the sail selection choices we made. And considering, you know, I only started designing the sail package with one sails in the August, I think it was, of last year, and we had less than a month to try them out and get them sorted on the boat. I can't believe how well it's gone and how happy I've been with the decisions we made. Just one of the things that I think is a great success about the campaign. Here we go, my number 77. I was gutted actually because I wanted 7, but Alain Rohr on La Fabrique has 7 and he didn't want to give it up. So I thought, what the hell, I'll have 2, and I think it's double the luck for sure. So down here, you can see this is one of the running repairs that I've made to the running rigging. And 3 months of non-stop work on all of these ropes has been brutal. My technical partners, Marlowe, provided the most excellent running rigging for the boat, but chafe is inevitable. And so one of the things, you know, I had to be really, really strict with is walking the deck every day, looking at every single rope, and if I saw a tiny little bit of damage, repairing it before it got any worse. Here's another place that I spent an awful lot of time, and one thing I'm really, really sure about is my next boat is going to be reefable from the cockpit. I had to hand grind up, top grind with the handle in here, the main halyard up and down. For every time the reef went in and out, I was here grinding like this, and oh my word, it's hard work, and you're so wet, the waves just breaking over you all the time, and oh, my arms were tired. And I'll never forget just, you know, watching those logos slowly inch up, and I'm just thinking, oh, when's this going to end? and you'd shake a reef out, and then 20 minutes later you'd have to put it back in again and know that you'd have to grind that all the way back out again. I mean, that was a really physically demanding part of the race. And here it is, my port rudder. Spare one, that is. Still got the string in the top of it from when I pulled it through the hull. Wow, yeah. I mean, that, so much to say about that, really. Just, you know, how I noticed that there was a problem because I was doing a deck walk, and I noticed that this part had slipped down, and it was so lucky because I wasn't using that rudder at the time, and that allowed me to send a video to Joff, and he saw the crack, and then, you know, obviously it could have been a lot worse if the rudder had actually broken. It would have been a lot worse. And the change was, I guess it just happened. It was really intensely stressful. The conditions were bad, but you know, we had a process. I'd practiced it, and actually when it came down to it, it worked because it had to work, because there actually was no other option. I had to change the rudder. Wow, could I do it again? I don't know. It's one of those things that you do, and you don't think about it at the time, but maybe if you reflect about it afterwards, you know, I surprised myself. I'm disappointed it happened. I'm really proud that I found the solution and carried on racing. It's just, you know, one of the stories of the race for me. Something I'll definitely not forget in a hurry. We've got here my two sat domes. This one's my Iridium and this one's my Inmarsat. So I had a choice of 2 satellite networks to communicate on the way back. And one of the great things I think about this edition of the race is how satcoms have developed so much that we've been able to communicate our stories more. Now, all the time that I was racing, I was on output. I didn't really have a huge amount of input back again, and only now I'm coming to terms with how many people have been following my story and engaged with it, and I'm stunned. It's a little bit hard to comprehend, really, but for every single person who has followed, who has supported, all of you, for those people that are putting those beautiful comments on, I just want to say it's been an utter privilege to share this with you, and thank you so much for your support, because it's made a huge difference. The cockpit is just so exposed, and I mean, obviously going into the race I knew that this was going to be one of my issues, but it is brutal. The volume of water that was coming over the deck, I mean, just almost like solid lumps of water. It's kind of not a trickle, it's just there's power in it, of force, and you know, I'd come out, I'd have to have these down all the time because the water would just go down below otherwise, and I'd come out, and even if I just wanted to move a sheet that much, I would have to be completely togged up in foul weather gear, come out, you know, you're being pushed around, the water's sort of sometimes up to your shins in the cockpit. One thing for sure, you know, for the next Vendée, I will have a boat that has a covering over the cockpit, because it's safer, but also I think it improves performance, because the person is kept safe, secure, more comfortable, and it's definitely easier to do the right thing when you're not battling with the elements at the same time. My coffee grinder, this is, I think, you know, this bit of kit has made a huge amount of difference, and when Medallia came on board, it was as title sponsor, this was the first thing that got put in the boat, and I was so excited to have it. And it's what it's meant to me is that all of the really grunty jobs on the boat, furling the Jenicas away, pulling in sheets, I've been able to do that from the middle of the boat using all my power, so both arms really pushing into it, and it definitely helped me push Medallia harder. And this is Polly, my Parrot weather gauge, and basically I blew Polly up at the start of the race, and as I went through the tropics, her wings lifted and and she took full flight, but in the Southern Ocean, and actually now we're back in Les Salles d'Olonne and it's flipping freezing, she's gone a bit soggy, but Polly helps me tell the weather. Home. This has been home for 3 months. This is really where, you know, most of my time has been spent. And I've had everything that I've needed. I really have not missed anything. I felt, you know, everything was at hand. All of my needs were covered, and I was comfortable in this environment. Sleeping, got one of my bean bags here, so basically just bean bag on the floor. Here's my water tank. So the water maker water goes into there, and I was charging that up every couple of days. And the jet boil for freeze-dried food. It's funny, isn't it? You know how you can be really happy and comfortable and have everything you need in such a small area. I definitely would like a bed next time. But yeah, it's home. I'm going to miss it. I've always written on the inside of my boats. I started doing it in the Ostar in 2009 when I was basically drawing pictures of little boats and crossing them out as I went past them. And on this race, I wrote on the inside of the boat because it helped me remember what I needed to do. It helped me remember the important things. And so all over the inside of the boat here, you can see my notes. You can see sort of checklists and dates that I did stuff. There's this one here. This is the formula that allows you to calibrate the wind instruments from deck level to the top of the mast. And it's a great memory for me to look around and see all of those notes. And the other thing too is that my Christmas cards are up here, and photographs of friends and family, and here all of the letters that people wrote to me, and I opened along the way. Yeah, it's really great to look at it all.